All right, and we're back. Welcome back, everyone.
Woo.
It is day 2, which is Wednesday. I know it's weird for day 2 to be like in the middle of the week, but it's day 2. And we're here for Adobe Live, and I'm here for part 2, day 2 with Christine and Aaron from Farm Design. Yesterday was so insightful as they walked through the design process from the beginning. In other words, getting not only showing some phenomenal work, but just what the thought process they go through when they approach a new client, get a new client, even start to just create, what was it called again? My favorite word. The little artifacts. Yes, artifacts. Creating the artifacts, and even way before they get to the design tool. So today we're going to continue that process, or they're going to continue that process. You can always ask questions in the chat, and of course, if you're watching on YouTube, that's awesome, but you'll have a much better experience if you head over to adobelive.com, because YouTube doesn't have the contest tab. You can't win any money on the YouTube page, but you can on the Adobe Live page. So we'll be talking about that. So at some point, I'll take a break and show you the Felix part of the contest. But if you already know Felix, or you were here yesterday, don't forget to do your submissions. So with that said, welcome everyone from around the world. I see people in the chat already saying hi. Yep, great advice on the process. I agree. And great to see you guys again. Thanks, Marianne, for being here again. And Christine, Aaron, take it away.
Okay, so maybe we'll give it a little recap for the people who weren't here yesterday.
And before you do that, if you weren't here yesterday, or if you're not going to be able to stay for today, or not going to be here tomorrow, you can always go back and watch the replays at adobelive.com. So don't forget, the replays are there. Even if you missed yesterday, watch today, but then go back and watch yesterday as well.
Yeah, I think that the first day, we spent almost the entire 2 hours just talking about process and how we sort of generate.
No, wait. See, when he says it that way, it's like, I don't want to go back and watch that. No, it was worth going back and watch. Yeah, you definitely want to go back and watch the 2 days or the 2 hours of process. Yeah. If I just tuned in and he said that, there's no way I'd go watch it. Trust me, go watch it. It was worth it.
Yeah, I think it exemplifies how much importance we put in on that foundation that sort of leads up to the creative. So we want to have this nice long runway to scaffold to our designs. We don't want to just jump right into our creative.
Absolutely, and that's what made it so cool.
Right, so I think we spent a lot of time on that, sharing sort of what's inside our head as we create. And today and tomorrow, we're going to sort of take that process that we demonstrated yesterday, and you're going to see it in real time today.
Perfect.
So the project, Christine, you want to go over sort of just briefly what we're going to work on today?
Yeah, so if you toggle to my screen.
We are on your screen.
This is just a quick brief that we showed yesterday. We are going to be doing shrub soda or sparkling shrub. For those of you who don't know what a shrub is, it's a sweet, tangy syrup made by combining 3 basic ingredients of fruit, sugar, and vinegar. And they're usually used for like cocktails, but for this audience, we're doing a non-alcoholic beverage, just to give them something refreshing.
Yeah, it's light, refreshing, low calorie.
So a better alternative drink, if you don't want to drink soda. And the key demographic is 23 to 37, more of the health-conscious audience. And the creative direction that we are going to go with is a hybrid between classic and modern. Classic being trying to pay homage to the shrub heritage, since it has a lot of history, and just a dash of modern, or more modern with a dash of heritage. So I think Aaron will be doing the
like a mood board. Well, our sort of Farm Design's interpretation of what a mood board is, sort of evolution of.
And you went over that yesterday. Yeah. That was really cool to see, by the way.
So I know we ran out of time yesterday, and so we started to do a mood board. So I'm going to build a mood board in probably like 10 or 15 minutes. Christine is going to go over some sort of fundamental principles that we implement into our design, and that's about 10 minutes, and then we'll probably sync up, and then we're going to start taking our mood boards and applying them to a bottle, and that's when you start to see all the magic happen.
Awesome.
So I'm going to be doing something. Christine's going to be doing her own thing. So I don't know if you
by the way,
toggle.
so I'll do my best to kind of
Yeah, we're going to
know
keep you on your
when
toes
to
this
toggle.
morning.
But yeah, if
Yeah.
that should be on a different screen than the one I'm on, just let me know.
Yeah, so this was yesterday's, this is the mood board I had done prior to coming in. Trying to grab photos from the asset buckets that one of our designers at Farm had collected for us. Got images of the homestead, maybe there's like a homestead written document that we have here. I don't know if there's some sort
That
of
looks like
black
really-
and white
Really cool,
Family.
ancient, like
family portrait.
artifacts.
And the little brand boy is something that says from our homestead to yours.
That's cool.
So again, yesterday we talked about how important brand voice is. You know, anything that can bring personality to the brand will make your brand more valuable or distinct. So now I'll kind of show you while Aaron's starting to dabble in his mood board. I'll kind of show you how we set up, like the first steps of setting up before diving into creative. Let's see here.
So keep an idea that the mood boards that we're creating, we're just trying to get some high level idea of what the brand might look like. Does it look and feel right? And we like to do little sprints to sort of get there. A lot of the mood boards we do actually aren't very good. And
but that's okay.
or may not be on brand, but we need to throw something against the wall to see what works or doesn't.
But that's okay because you're doing it just internally.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
fine, yeah.
exploring.
Yeah.
Yeah, my messy desk is not for the client to see.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so be mindful of that. It's okay to fail and make mistakes on these, and that's why we do these little 15, 20-minute sprints on the mood boards, is so we don't invest a lot of time in it. And it also a lot makes us sort of make quick decisions, which I think because sometimes we can sort of waffle into certain areas and we spend too much time on too much granular details when you're initially starting the idea process. So do it quick. Make quick decisions, and it's okay to not be perfect.
All right, Sissy, let me answer your question, even though it's not about today's topic. Is there any way to access CC libraries inside of Adobe XD at the moment, or is it because it's still beta? Anything that's not there, it's because it's still beta. So those kinds of things are coming. But I thought XD got libraries, or did it not yet? I know Felix just got it.
XD.
No, XD, so it's not yet.
Working on it.
Stay tuned. It's beta.
Okay, so if you look at my screen, you'll see a board here to the left. And what we like to do, or what I like to do, and what works for me is when I get all the playing pieces on the board, I'll dissect by hierarchy usually. So in this case, I would need to mention the brand name, some sort of tagline, what your product is, some benefits, whether it's organic, 15 calories, maybe we'll add sugar count, and then possible flavors.
Is it bothering it?
And then on this board, I have Wilder Shrub Company written in a couple of fonts. I like to key it in all caps, a sentence case, all lowercase.
Bruno says nice folder system, and William's saying, I'm curious why they're mocking stuff up in Illustrator rather than Photoshop.
For Illustrator, well, for us, for me, it's like quicker moves. I think it's personal preference. You could do it
It
in
is
Photoshop.
definitely personal preference. People are comfortable with what they're comfortable with. I started with Illustrator before there was a Photoshop. So you would think I'd be more comfortable in Illustrator, but now I'm more comfortable in Photoshop. So you'll see people do all kinds of things with where they're comfortable and where they can get it done the fastest.
Yep.
So whenever you see someone
Whatever
doing
feels
something
most efficient.
different than you, it's because they're comfortable with what they're doing.
It's just different tools. Like an artist has, like to use gouache or acrylic or a certain type of paintbrush.
Right, yeah.
It's a tool of your trade, and that's all it is. So I don't think there's a wrong
And
way
I
of
see
doing
people that do things in other programs that I think they should be doing, like in InDesign, and I cringe, but that's okay. It's where they're comfortable. It's what they know.
Yeah, and then I know in Photoshop now you could do multiple artboards, so
Right.
you could do it there.
You could now,
Just
but it would have been much
sometimes-
harder before
Yeah.
because Illustrator got
It was like-
artboards first. So if you started doing this in Illustrator, you'd obviously be doing it in Illustrator because it had artboards before
Yeah.
Photoshop.
And we'll explore quicker on Illustrator, and sometimes at the end when we're refining, you'll see these bottles here. I'll take the graphics and I'll put it on the Photoshop mock-up template.
Cool. All right. Sorry, I just want to get that question answered.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so that's the type. And then I have more type here, based on the mood board that I had yesterday. I had some fonts that were inspired by the Homestead Act. So I've got something that's maybe handwritten that may have like this honesty to it, or I have just like simple type that we can use for flavor descriptions, something to tell a story, but I like having options there already. And then these are templates that we will be exploring in. Let me see if I can get my list. So I usually have them in Clipping Mask. If it helps to see the highlights and shadows, you could add them in. I don't know if you could see it. It's very subtle. But if you wanted those there, you could have it there. But for the sake of exploration, you don't need it. That's just if you would like it. And then I will also show you some fundamental things that we
Now,
also do.
A question that kept coming up yesterday, so I'll just address it before anyone gets a chance
Sure.
to ask it. Were those bottles you made up or you downloaded or found?
We download it and then I
Okay,
just
okay.
extracted it to put on Illustrator.
Perfect.
There you go. And then, so we have these bottles. I usually like to lay a whole bunch out just so I know I have many to explore and not to just focus on one.
These are like our sort of thumbnails.
Yeah, these are just like thumbnails, and you can print it out. You could also, draw on them when you print it out. But you can also explore in Illustrator. But again, whatever you're comfortable with.
Whatever you're comfortable with. There's no law. And Kevin's asking, when will I do some portfolio or review some portfolios? I probably won't. I've been leaving that to Paul, so he's been doing them every other show. So he did some this morning. He'll do some more this afternoon.
Okay. And what I like to do, and what helps me, is I will create lines.
So you're setting up a grid.
So I'm setting up a grid. I think it's always important to have a foundation of a grid.
So we were talking yesterday, Terry, about whether you needed to go to school if it was important, and our answer was, it's great to go to school, but in this field, it's really about understanding the principles. And there's a lot of ways you can learn that. You can learn you can have a mentor. You can go on Google and
Trial and
YouTube
error,
it. Yeah, you can learn. But I think it's really important that you need to have the foundation of design. The grid is super important.
Yes.
Understanding certain principles of contrast and rhythm and repetition and hierarchy. All these things are super important. And there's different ways to sort of gain that knowledge. But you need to know that knowledge then to do your craft and do it well, because then you can start to break those rules. If you don't have that foundation, then you're kind of willy-nilly doing your thing, and it's going to take you a lot longer to get to that end goal.
Exactly. I didn't really start using a grid until actually, I would say religiously, until Adobe Muse. Like when I started laying things out in Muse, it just made more sense to make a grid for it. Then I started doing it in InDesign. Then next thing you know, I was doing it in Photoshop. So it's like I started doing it in one program and then started doing it in other programs as I progressed.
Yeah, and then it goes back to that, know your foundation, know your grid before you can break the rules, sort of thing. Okay, so I have my grid. So there's the quarters. You could go by quarters or thirds. And I'll show you like a quick exercise that.
So that top row is, you have it broken down into a quarter grid. And the bottom one is thirds. And I think those are like really quick places to jump to in terms of trying to find balance. Oftentimes creatives will, or designers will put things on the artboard or on the can or whatever that canvas is, and they're not being mindful of the space and weight of the elements. And so if you kind of have a grid there and you try to apply the rule of locking certain things into this quarter grid or third grid, or if we get a little more technical, there's the golden ratio.
Right.
You can download a golden ratio and you can use that, which is kind of like the 1/3 grid. But those things really help sort of solidify and create clarity in your layout as you're moving forward.
I see, like the golden ratio and rule of thirds and things like that from a photography standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what kind of taught me composition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. See, because Terry's a photographer. It's like, but when you're framing something,
Right.
your eye is sort of inherently for you, because
Exactly.
you've been doing it a while. You just automatically lock into those.
I don't need the grid on the camera.
Right.
It's just
So you can visualize
I
it,
can
but you know
visualize it,
where that sweet spot is and what works for you. Whereas I think a lot of designers, especially starting out, they may not understand those principles, but if you start to learn those, it'll really sort of get you to that place much, much quicker.
Yep.
No,
All right, so while Christine's doing a set redesign
Wardrobe
on her
change?
wrist, a wardrobe change, once you have that grid there, you'll just use it basically to keep things aligned and in proper perspective and composition.
Yes.
Okay. How was that for stalling?
Yeah, thanks. Okay. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll start with basic shapes. Colors here. I just go with black. And sometimes I'll just call these shape studies.
So someone's asking, are those honey bottles? I believe those would be bottles of tea.
I think these are called
like
Boston Rounds.
Boston Rounds.
You
Okay.
used to see them a lot. I think we chose this particular bottle type, this shape, this form, because in doing a lot of research on the shrubs, a lot of the mixologists have them in these sort of medicinal, they almost look like penicillin bottles. And they would have like simple syrups and they'd have them on the shelf. So it's paying homage to sort of its roots. And I just think it's a unique, interesting bottle.
And Chad asked, hey, can you please share the resources where you get those images from for mock-up purposes? Chad, I shared a couple of those yesterday. I'll share them again today. Here, let me get ready to share it. Hang on. They can, of course, share theirs, but I'll tell you as a Creative Cloud member where you can get yours. All right, let me get one library open here. Switch to my Adobe.
So as Christine's sort of working on some of these foundational shapes on the bottle, I think it's really to help demonstrate to the viewers how we focus on the big moves first and trying to find shapes or elements or possibilities that will become unique to the brand or indelible or distinctive when walking past this product on the shelf. And oftentimes those starts with color or large shapes. So right now, this is sort of how we think about, where are the possibilities, where are the weights, where can we put the logo? Maybe we put a large shape or color or a photograph.
That was cool. I like that.
Yeah. So it's like, so I'm grabbing. Sometimes I grab stuff from
cool.
my mood board and just try to see how they land. And you might come up with something.
Yeah, I like that one.
goodness. I don't know what it's like.
Okay, anyway, back to the resources. So let me switch real quick. Don't do anything cool yet.
Okay.
All right. All right, so I'll switch to me real quick. Couple of resources. Number one, if you go to your Adobe app, whether it's Mac or Windows, and Mac's at the top, Windows at the bottom, and you go to the Assets tab, In the Assets tab, there's this cool place called the Adobe Marketplace. And from there, you can actually do a search. If I can get to my search bar there. If I do a search for a bottle, then that will start to bring up graphic resources that are free for me to download and use. Most of these will be line drawings, which is great for Illustrator. There'll be vector shapes that you can download and pick apart and do what you need. And the beauty of these is that they are, in fact, all free. These are community-driven, community-created. You yourself could actually create things and submit them to the Adobe Market for use. So just by searching on the word bottle, I get a ton of different bottles I can use for mock-up. That's a pretty cool one right there. Some are in color, some are in black and white, they're mostly in vector, some are images. Depends on what you really want. All right, so that's one free resource right in your Adobe Creative Cloud app, right in the menu, right there for you to go ahead and take advantage of. Now, if I were to pick one of these, let's go back to that cool one I said. Ooh, I like that one even better. I can then click to sync this to whatever library I want. So taking advantage of my Creative Cloud libraries, I've got one set up called Project Felix, and I could then just sync that down. And in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere, After Effects, and all the other desktop apps where I have Creative Cloud libraries, that bottle is now coming down and available for me to use as soon as it finishes syncing. So that's one resource. While we're waiting for that to sync down, the next resource is Adobe Stock. Now, Adobe Stock usually isn't free, but you'll have a way bigger variety of choices. So if I were to search for a bottle, I'm going to get a ton of results. That will take me out to the web. Or I could search in the Creative Cloud libraries as well, and then that will give me a ton of different bottle choices to use. So again, you're going to get way more choices here, but these are ones that you would actually pay for. So if you want the free ones, they're built in. You want something that's going to be exactly what you want, then you can pay for it. You can always download a preview of these. You can sync a preview to the library without paying for it and see if it's what you really want, or maybe you want to draw on top of it as a preview. That's, I guess, legal. You're not using it as the final product. So a couple ways to get those resources for doing exactly what she's doing are already built into your Creative Cloud. All right, let's switch back to Christine. We're missing cool stuff.
So I've done some, if it's going to be a diagonal. Here's your mood.
My mood board is coming there.
Yeah.
Can you jump to my screen while Christine's doing that?
absolutely
So
can.
Christine's just sort of doing some exercises so you can start to see that we're focusing on big moves, big shapes, trying to get some balance points and look at possibilities. And then we're going to keep narrowing the focus and keep getting granular and granular as we go through this process. But we don't focus on those little details just yet. So I also pulled this board open that Christine had built with a lot of the information, what we like to call playing pieces. We want to make sure everything's on the board so I can look at everything on the landscape and draw from, so I'm not like jumping back and forth to different places. I like to have everything very organized. So there's a lot of information here. So I'm starting a mood board, and I just started grabbing shapes and stuff. Yesterday we compiled a bunch of assets relevant to the brand brief and trying to capture the heritage story, capturing images that we thought were relevant and on brand per the brief. So I was pulling stuff, I'm grabbing shapes and colors, and I was moving things around. I'm about to a place where I'm curious like what a logo might look like on my mood board. I believe in what I used to do when I first started out is I would design a logo. So I would take time and I would sketch a logo and I would draw it out, and it could take 4 to 8 hours to sort of craft a logo.
Right.
And then I'd put it on the design and I'd be like, wow, that's terrible. It doesn't work for whatever reason. It's too bold, it's too
And I
light.
think I'm going to go out on a limb and I say the vast majority of us who are especially starting out do it exactly that way.
Right?
Yeah. I know I've always done it that way.
You get so close to your craft, like you want to own your style, and it's like it's so precious to you. And that's the way I used to be. And I just spun my wheels a lot of times and trying to get what was right for the client as opposed to infusing what I knew in my style, which was somewhat limited.
Right.
It was very limited. So over the over the years, I learned how do I preserve time? How do I get to that place? How do I visualize the possibilities quicker? So I reference the masters. There's logo designers that are way better than me. There's photographers way better than me. I just look at what they're doing. I try to dissect and understand what is it about their craft that is so great. So I'm looking at this board here, and I'm just trying to create some ideas of like weight, colors, textures. What it's missing right now is a logo. I'm not going to design a logo because I just want to kind of first get a sense of what that style might be. So I'm going to jump to some of the resources that we pulled the other day. And so we have them, again, let me find it here.
So Gio's asking a question. What's the point of having that bleed, I believe is referring to the red guideline around your artboards?
Oh, this one?
Mm-hmm.
We could hide it.
We could hide it. There's, I think I accidentally
There is no
set it
reason.
up.
There is no reason.
Right.
Yeah.
If it bothers you, we can take it off.
Well, I know it was, for whatever reason, I know it was bothering Michael from the standpoint of just the production. So it was about the color red.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't the fact that you had the guide.
It
It was something
ruining?
about the red there. If you can turn it off, it'd be great. Or change the color, either one.
Oh, does it start to vibrate on screen?
Might be doing something weird like
There you
that. There you go. It's gone. Okay, it's gone.
Where'd you go to do that? Here, let me
I
finish
think I
this
just
first.
pressed
Command quote or command
colon.
semicolon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Command semicolon. New shortcut.
Whoa, gone.
Gone.
Because I don't know how to do it the other way.
That's okay. Hey, whatever works, and that was fast. That worked.
So,
And Gio and the rest of the world says thanks.
sorry about that. Gio, how do you pronounce that? Terry, how do you pronounce that last name?
Dude, do not ask me about names. I butcher more names on live streams than anybody.
All right, so going back to talking about logos and trying to come up with ideas, I don't want to spend a bunch of time
All right,
crafting
and
a
while
logo.
you're talking about that, Jethro's asking, what advice would you give designers who get stuck creating these mood boards?
So what I would advise is, first gather your artifacts that you when you kind of have a notion of something, you kind of have this gut after doing all your research. It always starts with a concept. So find artifacts and, artwork that give the same essence of what you're thinking in your head. I would just start gathering, putting it in buckets or folders, and then just start throwing them on Illustrator slowly. Make sure you have maybe a color block of some sort if you'd like. Then throw on some texture, throw on some type, throw on a logo. And I think once you have those like main four, start setting hierarchy, and then you'll probably come up with something cool that you didn't expect.
Probably. You obviously have not seen my work. I will not come up with something cool.
I think you should make a mood board, Terry.
I will come up with something.
I think you should join this.
Something, but not cool.
Yeah, mood boards are fun though. It should.
Oh, I
it
don't
should
doubt
be-
that.
Yeah, think of it as a fun activity.
So I'm looking for some logos. Again, we didn't design these logos. These are logos that we think are really cool that are relevant to the brand and capture maybe the brand essence of this Wilder shrub soda that we're designing. So I'm just doing this to sort of get a sense of it, and then I'm going to craft something later that's inspired by these guys. So I'm going to pull a few logos here and I'm going to drop them on. I'm going to make an assessment on what I think is working well for my mood board. Okay, so I'm going to have something here for you in a little bit. You. Okay, so
You are so fast, Christine.
I'm trying to have 2 hours.
You are like incredibly speedy. I'd still be on the first bottle. Well, I think it could be moved up 2 pixels.
Yeah, so the key is like seriously don't worry about, if you just follow your grids first, you'll have something at the end.
okay.
All right,
this
we're
is pretty
still
interesting.
on you, Aaron.
Okay, so here we go. So you'll see here in the middle, is I started building some foundational shapes and colors. I found some artifacts here with textures. I'm looking for large shapes, small shapes. I'm looking for elements that contrast each other. I'm at the stage now where I want to try to figure out what the logo style might be. So I pulled some logos here on the right of my screen, and I'm just going to pull them over onto my artboard, and I'm going to look at it through the lens of, if this were the logo, does it feel right for the brand? So I'm going to pull this one over here first. Again, we didn't craft this. I'm just trying to get a sense if that feels right. That looks pretty cool. It's pretty honest and it's sort of lo-fi. It's has some heritage to it, so that one's pretty cool. So I'm going to consider that one. I'm going to put that back on the side here. I'm going to grab another logo here. I'm going to throw this on. I'm going to do a little multiply. I mean, this logo is just ridiculously cool. I don't know what it's for, but
multiply everything.
Yeah. And I'm going to put it on the, so I got some tangents here.
That's when it comes back to the visual opportunities. When you overlap things, you create depth. So try it.
Right, so I'm looking at this, I'm like, maybe that mark could possibly be shrub. You know, maybe I'll craft something that says shrub. Maybe that's something that says Wilder after the brand name. So that's something that has a lot of style. I think the visual is going to be, the logo is going to be hero if I choose this one on that concept.
Now, would you, once you decide, would you hand letter that?
Yeah, this one's probably a little bit of hand
on,
and probably a font.
Would you hand letter it on paper first, or would you do it on the computer?
A lot of our designers do it different ways. I like to do a hybrid of both.
Okay.
So I like to sketch something, I'll scan it in, and then I'll trace outline it. If there's a lot of letters, oftentimes I just try to like find a font that's pretty similar, and then I'll massage the font and tweak it and customize it to my needs. So I'm always about preservation of time and trying to get there. Okay, so here's the third logo I picked that I thought had some possibilities. Again, I don't know what sticks and steel is. I just think it's a cool mark, the type. So I pulled 3 here on the side. I'm gonna make a decision on which one I think is the best. Do you guys, maybe we ask the audience.
Oh, yeah.
I got 3 here.
I see a few comments. Feels very 90s in the styling. Gives a hipster vibe to me.
Okay.
It's, and I'm speaking in your voice that I imagined, by the way. It's
a very
vintage
good one.
hipster.
Yeah, so there's this guy. I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty bold. It's a some masculinity to it. It's got unique styling to it with the letter form. And we got this guy here, which is really cool design. This is all about, like, if I did something like this, it's all gonna be about the logo.
Yeah.
Everything is gonna be complementary to the logo.
Yeah.
What? Oh, dang it.
Oh,
Is that the art director?
Yeah, that's
Is he
art
talking?
director. Art
Where is
director
he?
broke. He's right behind your computer. Art director broke in and said, nah.
Okay,
I
so
like it. I don't love it.
okay, so he doesn't like
He
this
doesn't
one.
love it. He likes it though. Now see, that was the weird thing, is that we didn't touch him. He just like, oh God, I gotta say something right
He
now.
has a mind of his own.
All right.
And then this third one, which is, you know, simpler, a little more sort of raw and honest. This one's pretty cool too. I see someone here, they like the Sticks logo. Joshua likes that.
Yep.
I like
All
that.
right, we're gonna go with that then. Joshua, we're taking your advice. So I'm gonna craft something that is inspired by this. So
Chad's asking, do you have a favorite heritage, vintage type foundry or shop?
Creative Market has a bunch of stuff on it. CreativeMarket.com, they have textures, fonts. So I like to go there a lot, personally.
I think also, have
And
you guys
Sissy
been-
says, feels barbershop.
Barbershop, yeah. Pretty retro.
Mhm.
Is that a good thing or a
I
bad
think
thing?
See where-
I don't see the fun in it.
Gosh,
He's annoying.
soul crusher.
You know, I wonder how many of these are like crumbled up against the wall of many design shops, just like smashed into pieces.
All right, so I'm pretty good with this artboard. I'm going to use this to then jump to the next stage. So
Okay.
we spent maybe 15, 20 minutes on this guy. I'm going to start crafting things that dial it in. If you want to jump back to Christine's board, and then we're going to sync up and we're both going to do this together. So you can start to see.
Oh yeah, here, I'll show you kind of where. So we had these, just starting with simple
I was watching her
shapes.
do this like at lightning speed. You should have saw it. It was like watching, like a computer work.
Yeah, so I mean,
She's part Android.
pretty much. I'd like to think so. So these are creating shapes. Trying to create little nooks where you can place information. Right here, I started adding. Maybe there's a label on it. So I'm still using black just because I want to see kind of like a silhouette or shape that I'm going to use.
So what happens is, in farm design, I'm the creative director. Christine is the art director. We have 6 designers there, and they all do this process. And so what we'll do is, as they're sort of starting the from ground level, this ideation of where the brand can go, or sort of creative discovery, they do these, and we kind of look at these together. Sometimes we jump from computer to computer, and we say, oh, this is pretty interesting. I like how you use the negative space or the counterbalance of such and such. And so, like, that's pretty interesting. It creates motion from left to right. It's dynamic. So we have these conversations, and then we narrow it down to, like, we normally pick a few of these and we start applying a lot of these artifacts from the mood boards that you just saw that I created. So I think you want to jump to the next one?
Yeah, we can start jumping.
So this is sort of
into-
more sort of fundamental or foundational, how you look at shapes to sort of create something unique, visibly distinctive from 5 feet away.
Helen, you're welcome for showing the marketplace. It's there. It's been there almost since day one. So I'm glad you discovered it from the stream, and now you'll be taking advantage of it. It is cool.
Okay, so... All right, so I think we're going to transition. Christine has a mood board. I have a mood board. I'm going to start...
Bruno says 3 and 4 are nice. Great job.
3 and 4.
3 and 4 like on which artboard?
This
You must be talking about that one.
this one.
3 and 4, yeah.
Yeah, that's
You want
gonna
to
be
pull
interesting.
open your
Yeah.
mood board? Okay, so my mood board is sort of the blue and orange. Christine has this sort of red, accent of red with black. So we're now going to take these mood boards and we're going to start slapping it on what we call a touch point. In this case, we're using the bottle, a label as our sort of canvas. Depending on what your project is, if it's a box, if it's a website, you normally want to have that foundation, and you're going to start taking these elements and artifacts and start applying them onto it. Again, quick moves, don't worry about it getting it perfect.
And from the magic of that, which is Michael Chase, we have both screens up now.
Oh, wow.
Wow, Michael, impressive. Thanks, buddy.
Cool.
He's like the Wirecast wizard.
Okay, so we're going to start applying these to the bottle and just start seeing what happens. Again, we're going to do big elements. I'm not working about little granular elements yet. So
So
It's like Design Wars. Who will be the winner?
I say millennial versus Gen X. I probably the audience is mostly millennial, so they're rooting for Christine, but
I don't know.
That lace pattern is killing me. William is just about to die. He wants to delete that layer like bad.
Oh, sorry. This one?
He said something about lace.
oh, maybe it's on this
I think
board
it's
here.
on yours.
This guy here.
We can use a different texture.
He doesn't like
We'll
this.
see.
I say make it bigger.
We'll ask.
I have one made here. You know, I'm going to find a
kidding.
different.
I'm
This
just
this is the great thing about mood boards is you can make these quick decisions and assessments. So like, who doesn't like this? I'm going to delete it. He doesn't like it. I'm going
William doesn't like
I'm going
it.
to find a different
William's
pattern.
like losing it over it. He just
Wow.
can't handle it.
What kind of texture are you feeling? Who is this? Who asked? I forgot his name. Sorry.
I'm gonna grab some other artifact here. I'm looking for something granular to counterbalance a lot because I have a lot of really large shapes on my board. So I'm gonna look for something here. You can see these folders that we gathered, and we sort of itemize them based on logos or textures or photos or illustrations. I'm gonna try to find something with it,
It's in texture.
some sort of texture. Oh, go up here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got one texture. But I think there's a lot of cool labels and tags. I'm going to find something here that I can maybe use.
And then so what I like to do
That's
is
a
I
good.
like to
That's
have a
Gio's
mood
asking a
board.
good question. I get this all the time from the photography standpoint. Let's answer from the graphic design standpoint, since you're both experts. Hey guys, how much time does it take to become a pro in graphic design? And of course, that's a loaded question because it really depends on you.
You know, you technically become a pro when someone starts paying you. So
Yeah.
you could be a pro now and you don't even know it.
Right.
So it's like how.
That is the definition of professional, is that you're being paid. So if you're now, you can say, how long does it take to become proficient? That's different. But to become a pro, the minute you start getting paid.
Yeah. I think we're constantly trying to improve our craft. And so, I think it's sort of what sort of echelon of clientele or echelon of work that you want to be working on. In order to get there, you got to keep striving to sort of meet the bar that everyone else is working at that level, and then you just keep scaffolding those efforts to the next level, on and on. Whoever didn't like that texture, I found something here I kind of like. It's more linear, and again, I didn't try to draw this because I just trying to find something really quick. So I do like that as a granular detail to juxtapose a lot of the bold stuff I have. So I'm going to somehow figure out how to integrate that.
Yeah, I like the line.
Right, some line work, some small, tight. All right, so I'm gonna go with that. How much time do you think we should do on this, Christine? I like to put time constraints on. I like to put time constraints on things because it's without time constraints. Sometimes it's really easy to sort of get in a certain space and just noodle and noodle and noodle.
Right.
And
Well, you've got about an hour and 10 minutes, 15 minutes in this segment. So balance your time accordingly.
Okay.
Because I don't know what else you have to do. So
Plenty of things to do.
Okay. Any questions from?
yeah, there is. Kevin's
like-
asking, how do you translate your mood boards into design?
We're doing-
I'm always working slow and don't really know how I should do it. Any advice for working faster? Watch Christine. She works really fast.
I think the point of the mood board is to kind of give you some guidance. So if you have a solid mood board that you are comfortable and believe in, then just start throwing those elements onto your mood board. And this will keep you from kind of steering other directions. So really try to focus within
Yeah,
your
and correct me if
elements.
I'm wrong. I would just look at it as the mood board is not the final design. So
No.
don't spend as much time refining it as you would the final design. So mood boards are quick for ideas, putting things together, then move on to elements you like, which is what they're doing now, putting them together. Once you narrow those down, then you can spend that time that you're probably spending now to finalize those
Absolutely.
designs.
Yeah, bingo. That's it.
All right. See, I learned quick.
Yeah.
I learned by watching.
So we're not going to show these to the clients. This is internal. We're just trying to generate ideas. Wow, she is quick.
Yeah,
like she already has like
she's
one really
like,
awesome
right.
concept there.
Yeah.
And then from that, we do another internal critique and we start to see what starts to work and what's exciting, what doesn't work, and we challenge each other internally, and then we just hone it in. So after we feel comfortable about one of these at this level, then we start spending time crafting every element on there. So that logo, what are these little artifacts? Right now, these are just all found
They're just
artifacts,
ideas.
right? That's
Yeah,
all
right.
we're doing.
I think the idea and the concept is always important, not just making something pretty. So come up with the concept first.
Yep. Yeah, so yesterday I said, I heard this, get the right idea and then get the idea right.
Okay.
So you got to get the concept and then you got to execute it.
Get the right idea.
Get the right idea. So you got to get the
idea
concept
right. Okay.
and then get the idea right, which means
Okay.
you need to be able to execute it. So right now we're just trying to get the concept or the idea, and then we're going to craft everything, which is then getting the idea right. I think I said that right.
Is there anything
Tongue twister.
in my shape studies?
So I think you'll start to see like Christina and I are pulling elements from our mood board and then applying them to the bottle. I use a boxing term, sort of a jab and move. You get in, you jab, and then you back out. And so we're doing quick little moves.
Oh, see, now the war's begun. They're saying the millennials are faster than Generation X.
To my credit, I haven't designed in like 4 years. I have such great designers at Farm Design. I don't design.
There you go.
I sort of look at their work, and I help sort of with my eye.
I got a response to that.
Yeah, what?
If it wasn't for Generation X, millennials wouldn't have the job.
It's true.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron.
Props.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm pretty happy with one here. I'm going to kind of stop here. I'm looking at large shapes, granular details. I think I have enough here where I'm going to bounce and I'm going to go to another place.
Sometimes
Gio's asking, should we expect live streams about Adobe XD? We do them regularly, and there is one coming up soon. September, as in soon, like in 2 months.
it's so crazy.
We're recording with, or broadcasting with is a better way to say it. We're broadcasting with Wirecast Pro.
So the granular type you see here, sometimes I just use lorem ipsum for a little bit.
Evil Cerise has got it in there. Great. Skyhawk's asking, why isn't there a budget version of Illustrator? There's Photoshop Elements. Good question. It's all about demand. Is there a big enough demand to build a budget version? This is an interesting question from Pedro. Hey, I was thinking about consistency in your portfolio. You think it's better to take your style or try new things to every project?
That's a great question.
But
I have
that's
an,
like two
I have my
questions.
opinion. I have an
That's-
opinion to that one.
Well, let's hear yours first.
What was it?
Mine? I think there's a lot of designers, especially illustrators, they have a very distinctive style. And a lot of people go to those creatives for their specific style. I think the challenge is, will that style fade? Is it just trendy? And then what happens when that style becomes obsolete? Are you going to change your style to become relevant and still have a job? So, and then the other thing is, talking it from a brand's perspective, is clients come to us because they have a variety of services or products, and they all have different consumer groups or demographics that they're trying to appeal to. So is my style going to cast that wide net and it's going to appeal to all of those potential brands and customers that are coming, calling us? I don't think so. So what we do is we want to make sure we craft the right brand look that's right for the client. So we don't try to infuse and project a style onto our client. And that's why this process, what we do here, is we're generating ideas that feel right for the brand.
And see, I was starting to say that sounded like almost two questions, because you answered one of the questions was, do I use my style for every client? And you answered it perfectly. No, it depends on what the client needs.
Yeah.
But your question was really about the portfolio. And I have a different take on that, is that, my portfolio should represent my style, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be consistent all the way through for graphic design. It probably would be consistent all the way through for photography. So it just really depends on where you're trying to go. So from the photography standpoint, I look at it as when my work is posted, I shouldn't even have to put my logo on it. If my style is recognizable, people will say, oh yeah, that looks like one of Terry's shots. But from a graphic design standpoint, it's a little different.
Yeah, I think a lot of artists and designers can generate a lot of work and inquiries for their style. A lot of potential clients call them or go to them because they like what they do. And so oftentimes they already vetted it out and they feel like, yeah, that's the right style for my brand.
Yes.
They're calling you on that.
Right.
Oftentimes the clients that come to us, they don't know what's right for their brand. And then through this process of keeping it open and sort of organic allows us to sort of generate it for them. So I think our portfolio doesn't necessarily have a style. There's certain principles that you start to see throughout, and I think it's distinctive brand voice and a robust system for each of our clients. So I think you can be both.
I agree.
You can be both. Well, I'm on 1, Christine. What are you on, 3 now or 2?
Like 50.
See, yeah, so
like
millennials are faster.
Someone said they like what you do with the cap. Thought that was a nice touch. I don't know if that was it or not. Saw that comment earlier.
Kind of has, that was cool. I'm gonna steal your ideas.
Don't
It's
steal.
okay.
She can't steal my ideas.
It's okay to steal ideas. That's what you always.
Yeah.
Chad's asking, where do
Share
you
your
find
ideas.
where do you find images you can use for background texture and packaging? For example, old woodcuts, photographs, or line drawings. Chad, I'll give my answer. Adobe Stock. That's where you can find all of the above. You also might find some of that stuff for free on the Adobe Market. Yeah, Sissy says, wow, Christine is a beast. I agree.
Thank you.
She's in beast mode right now.
I know. I've never designed in front of people before.
Great hire.
Okay.
So maybe a little more traditional, centered, stacked.
Your California cold brew design looked so great that I bought it, even though I don't like almond milk.
Nice. Wow.
You guys seriously
really
made
good.
it an amazing looking product.
So that was, which part was it, Calafia? You know, we have Calafia as a client of ours. They do a lot of natural.
Oh, I read that as California. I read that as, sorry.
Oh, it's
that.
derivative of California. A lot of
Yeah.
people have a hard time pronouncing.
Perfect behind
Yeah, yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Behind us.
oh, my screen.
Oh.
I was almost trying to move my screen away from that. Yeah,
Here.
so
Yeah. No, I see it. Yeah, we can see it. Cool.
yeah, but they're really progressive and innovative in their products. They do a lot of natural beverages and other products, and so they're very innovative. And they're a fun client to work with because they're always challenging us on how do we sort of innovate alongside them, because it's part of their brand DNA. So if you look at a lot of the packaging we've done for Calafia, they really push the envelope and try to be sort of the leader in each category. And there's a certain license that they've had by being one of the leaders in almond milks and coffees, is they can sort of set those trends. And so as a creative studio like Farm Design, it's just a blessing to have clients like that allows us to sort of really push the boundaries, and that doesn't come around very often. So yeah, when you're an industry leader, you can set.
like that a lot.
Yeah, that one's cool.
That's cool. So here's a question. The Adhocracy group. What kind of training, if any, do you do to get your new hires to use your styles and expectations? And I think I know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer it anyway.
Wow.
Because we kind of talked about this yesterday.
So the question is, where's it at again?
I might have scrolled by on that screen. I
Oh,
still have
can you
on
repeat
my-
it again? I want to make sure I
Sure.
capture it.
Hold on. It's scrolling by on my screen now. What kind of training, if any, do you do to get your new hires to use your style and expectations, I guess, to your expectations?
That's a really good question. I don't try to get any of the designers to do something my way. I want to see their style and their process, and allow them to do it their way.
Yeah.
My philosophy is, if you know how to do something better, more efficiently, teach me, teach everyone around you. I don't go in and say, this is the way it needs to be done. I'm not militant like that. But if I do see someone who is not very adept at something, I'm going to teach them what I know.
Okay.
And try to get them acclimated to things that I think are best practices, or from my experience, work for me. So everyone has different styles and techniques. Christine has her sort of bag of tricks that she uses. Obviously, she's more, she's quicker and more efficient than me.
Very fast.
Right? So I think in terms of your techniques, just go with what you know and keep honing in on that as well. Just constantly try to keep perfecting it. There's so many great resources online. Like if you want to learn short keys or how to do certain techniques, just YouTube it. You can spend all day just watching videos on how
Right. So 2 questions for Christine. Question number 1, how long have you been using Illustrator? And question number 2, how did you learn it?
So I learned Illustrator when I was in school, and I got started. When did I graduate? 2008.
Okay.
So I graduated 2013. Sorry, 2013. And the way I learn is honestly, I'll ask someone at work because there's always something that they know that I don't. So
on the job.
Yeah. So on the job, really.
Because you're very, not only proficient with it, but you're very fast with it.
I think
is
it's
that
all-
because you're just using it day in and day out?
Yeah, I mean, it takes practice using all these tools, and I think organization helps no matter what program you're in for efficiency, just by simply doing, layers, so you're not struggling when you click something and you
Right,
click something else. It's just, again,
Yeah,
it goes back to the fundamental
You're
things.
keeping the one layer you want unlocked and everything
Yeah,
else is
so
locked.
I don't
Yeah.
mess with anything else, but that's pretty much it. Usually, I learned a lot after school, actually,
Okay.
just by asking people around me. So if you have those, try to ask
Right,
a lot
so
of
like right now
questions.
I'm stuck, so I'm gonna ask Christine, how do I take this logo?
Mm-hmm.
Here, let me find it here. I want to do a live trace in Illustrator.
Oh.
Okay, so this is I want to try. So I have this image and I want to outline it. So is it
You can try that,
image trace?
and then expand. That one, right there.
Boom.
And then you can just take out
rid
whatever
of this guy.
excess stuff. And if you need
All right, cool. Thank you.
this-
See, I didn't know how to do that, and so it was just as easy as just asking your neighbor.
Exactly.
How do you do that? And we have a open creative space at Farm Design, so you can hear one person from one side of the room to the next. So if you have any questions, we always just shout it out. We don't communication is so important in a collaborative effort.
Christine has amazing design instincts. Her exploration seems to come natural.
Thank you.
Watching Christine work is like seeing a kid play with crayons all over the house.
I was that kid.
I think that's in a good way.
Yeah. Maybe I can pull something from my shape studies.
I feel like I'm getting
forget.
more education from these live streams than I got from my college XD. Do you offer diplomas by any chance?
We
The
don't,
School
I'm
of
sorry.
YouTube.
So we're almost at the 1 hour mark. So I think we can do these for a while.
All right. Well, here's a technical question. Hey, I'm always wondering what's the difference between process color and spot color. I mean, when I send design for print, it's always important to set color to spot. I find it hard when to use it.
Yeah, so spot colors are like PMS colors, and it's normally used for it's intended for print. So if you print something, traditionally it's 4-color process. Think like a newspaper or editorial magazine. Print is CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. That's 4-color process. Spot colors, it's one ink. So if, say you have a
Right. So
a
typically,
blue color, it could be like a pre-mixed bucket of ink, as I like to say.
Typically, spot color is cheaper to print. It's less expensive.
Well, it's one ink versus 4 inks.
Right.
But the great thing about using spot colors, you're going to be more accurate each and every time you reproduce something because you're drawing from that same exact sort of formula that we're talking about blue, for example. So when you're working in Illustrator, understand what the output is going to be. If you're going to print 4-color process because of the parameters, then you want to use process colors. If you have the opportunity to do custom inks, you're going to have your swatch set at a spot color. And one good thing about Yeah, I mean, I think that answers it. So
Yep.
you need to know what the final output is going to be.
Now, someone mentioned something in the chat, and I want to address it. It was basically, they said something like clipping rocks, or clipping masks rock, or great. And I noticed you're using a lot of clipping masks.
Oh yeah, for these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
just so they're out of the board.
just let me show you guys something you may or may not be aware of just happened in Illustrator, like within the last couple months. Ready? All right. Pause. Is that what you're doing? Switch over to me for a second. And here we are. So I'm in Illustrator, and typically if I wanted to cover up part of this, I would just mask it. And then they introduced this little button right here. There's actually a crop now in Illustrator. Yes, 30 years later, there's finally a crop. So when you click crop, you actually get the ability to crop without having to do the traditional masking and hiding with shapes and all the things we used to do to get an effect like this. So you can actually crop an image, apply it, and there it is.
That's so cool.
All right, so you don't have to use clipping mask anymore. Totally up to you. Use whatever works for you. But I wanted to make you aware that Illustrator finally has cropping. All right.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
You tried it.
I'll try.
Okay, so we have an hour. I think we want to
we
try to
can-
get one of these bottles. By the end of the day, we're shooting to have one of these bottles more fleshed out and actually start to craft a logo that can maybe go with it and some of the artifacts. So we're going to go. This is normally at this stage.
And the chat's now responding. Oh wow, that's wonderful! Hoorah! Whoa, thank you! Mind blown! Finally, you know what? Because when we get a new version, if you don't read the description, which you usually don't have time, you go back and you're doing the same things you always did. That little button's been there for a few months now. Think of all the clipping masks you made unnecessary. No, just kidding. Crop whenever you need to.
That's so cool.
So it's about this stage of the process at Farm. We'll normally do a group critique. And so I'll have everyone take these concepts, these rough ideas, and we'll create a PDF, and we have a conference room, and we meet. And sometimes we'll print things out, we'll put them on the wall. But we all sit down and we have an open discussion on what we think about each of these designs. So it's kind of, we can explore and see like why we like something or why we don't like something. I think it's really important to be critical and not just tell everyone what you like. You need to tell them like certain things that don't work as well. It's equally as important.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's respectful and it's nothing personal. It's just like, we're all trying to like get to the best place possible. And in order to do that, we can't be yes people and everything's awesome. So we have critiques. So we're gonna jump to there. I already got a feeling my designs aren't nearly as good as Christine's. So this is where we look at it. We say,
Or we can combine stuff too.
yeah, we do that as well. Like we might look at some of Christine's, and we feel like, oh, you need like a small nugget or a bug of a logo or something. So
All right, now Christine, just out of curiosity, of all of these that you put together, what's your personal favorite? 'Cause I see mine.
throw some numbers on there.
Yeah.
Let's get
people vote.
Okay.
let's get the audience to see. I want
And
their opinion as well.
Evil
Be
Cerise, I
part
don't
of the
know if-
critique.
You mentioned doing a poll yesterday. I don't know if that's something you do in the chat. If not, so people can start typing in their numbers if we don't do a poll of what they think is their favorite.
And if you throw in a number, if you say which one you like, I encourage you to say briefly, it might be hard, why you like that.
See, for me, it's number 4. I don't know why. I just like number 4.
So what do you have, 5 there?
6, I think.
Oh.
Okay.
I could be convinced with number 6 too.
It's got a good
Yeah, I think
structure.
six has some
Six is
interesting
structure.
shapes. It's missing something in the middle, which will probably be a product
Fruit shrub,
identifier.
maybe?
Smith will design a logo that says Wilder because that's the brand name is Wilder Shrub. So in lieu of that logo Smith, we'll craft something that says Wilder. And then, somewhere in the sort of the middle, there needs to be something that says Shrub. So that one's missing a big component right now. What if it's, go to the artifact.
Someone said 3 is simple and clean, 4 looks sunny, 6 looks cold.
Yeah, 6 is missing something, but I think there's some foundational elements there.
I think that's why I like it, because it's like you expect that whatever that next thing is to go there. Mm-hmm. I like also the nice red reverse on the fruit flavor.
Number 1, and I think they all have some viability to them. I mean, there's arguments for each one.
Yep.
5, 6, 2 and 6.
3, but would like it horizontal element. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, get some verticality in that. Mm-hmm. See, this is where we have critiques. Like everyone shares information, and we explore different paths. Because sometimes you're looking at something for so long you can't see the possibilities because sometimes you need to take a step away, sleep on it, so to speak. So getting an outside perspective helps create some different clarity.
6 is a good start for something. Maybe 6 can have an illustration. Agreed. We all use them all. Number 2.
Carol, you should
Simple,
illustrate
bold,
something.
clean, old time feel. Number 6. 2 and 4. 2 or 4, I should say. The last one, 6. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Love the gray.
That might be. And it doesn't necessarily have to be gray. We could explore color too at the end.
Yeah, so maybe that accent color is predicated based on the
How
flavor.
happy were you when we added artboards to Illustrator?
Really happy because I didn't have to go in like every
I had
new
50 documents
Oh
open.
my god! Although sometimes your files could get big.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one thing. But
There's always a trade-off.
Alright, what about Aaron's, guys?
Oh, geez. Let's not go to my screen.
I like the iconography of number 3. Oops, wrong poll, guys. Okay. 6 would be really
Worth iterating on.
Yeah, I like 6 a lot.
6? Okay.
And
So-
again, I don't know why. I just like it because it's got that missing element.
All right, this is where my creative director instincts come in.
Go on, let's hear
So
it.
I do think 6 has some really strong foundational elements there. I think there's a nice sort of frame or canvas to build off of. But I'm not convinced what's going to happen there in the belly of that label. That is it going to take it over the top and get us to that place? So I'm going to move cautiously on that one. So, but I do want to continue exploring 6, and then I want to have another one in our back pocket in case it doesn't work.
Okay.
So I like 1 a lot.
Yeah,
I do like
1.
one's got a lot of interesting overlaps.
3 and 1 have some similarities. I like that it's not so symmetrical and right down the middle. I like the asymmetry. I like the contrast, the hits of color. So let's explore a little bit on 6. And if it doesn't flesh out to something that we think can work, we're gonna jump ship and we're gonna go to something that's kind of like 1 or 3. What do you think?
I like it. I don't love it.
Ouch. All right. What do you know?
He's a bit of a jerk. Right.
Okay, so
Make it less stocky.
so let's throw. We need something in there that's gonna describe the product. It's gonna, in this case, it's gonna be shrub soda, or so we need to put something in there on number 6.
Okay.
So we want to pull something from the artifacts.
Or what do you have? Do you have anything I could use?
There was that one that I think I deleted it. Go to the type folder. Let's see if there's something in there. I'm gonna close my screen so it's not distracting. These got shot down.
Did you guys give up on Aaron?
Yeah, I gave up on my own.
That's a good one,
was there
Skyhawk.
anything?
Simon Cowell. Nice talking about the.
Bigger, but keep it simple.
Oh, Aaron, was it this one? The touch type toolkit? Is that what you're talking
Oh
about?
no, like other artifacts. It could be just straightforward type, and all the style comes with the Wilder logo.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want me to put like a...
There was something on the.
Now that's something.
Folder.
Just go back up to. Let's see the type artboard. that's something I just, again, I'm learning so much here since I don't focus on design as much as I used to. Just what you did there to have it all laid out and easily be able to pick them up and move them around as needed.
And again, it comes back to
Right.
that efficiency, organization thing. Just so you don't, and never.
Because I would do the opposite. I'd be spending time, nope, don't like that font. Oh, change it to an don't like that one. On the same one versus just having them all laid out and pick and choose as needed.
And I think what's important here is it allows you to compare and contrast. So when you're exploring, never get rid of anything. Just keep it there, even if it's good or bad. At least you know. Sometimes you make iterations, and then you're on the fourth one, and you're like, oh, this is pretty good. But then you look back at one, and you're like, I think I like one better.
I think compare and contrast is so important. It's easy to you start dropping lines down in Photoshop or in Illustrator, and you just keep moving stuff around on the plate, as they say, moving food around on the plate. I think it's important to sort of stop, copy and paste, and do some other iterations.
Right.
Copy and paste.
Yeah.
I saw Aaron Draplin. He's a designer whom I love. He said something about vectors are free. Just use as many as possible. They're free. So copy and paste. Copy and paste. Take a step back, because actually, that first concept that you came up with, when you go back, you're like, there's something there that now I see it, now that you can compare and contrast with these other iterations. And so if you don't do that and you're just constantly working off the same concept or file or vector, you might lose all those cool things that you had.
Agreed.
To compare and contrast.
Now and again, I'm liking the type treatment I'm seeing over there too.
Yeah, so we have on my screen here, we have some really quick studies that we did, and I'm looking here and saying maybe we can grab something from here. There's some type treatments. Again, this was some laying out some foundational stuff to draw from. So let's see. There's some quick little studies here.
Those are cool.
I wonder if we grab, because that Smith is so stylized, which will be
something more simple.
Maybe something simpler.
Okay. I think, let's see.
I like that middle one.
Yeah.
That could go there.
Decanter.
Now see, this is where
Decanter?
CC
Okay.
libraries would come in. You guys would create a CC library, and then you throw that in there, and she'd be able to pull it right onto the bottom.
All right. We can try that.
You guys want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's show the audience how. So go to your CC libraries panel.
It's under here.
It's that little cloud.
Bam.
Yep. Okay, and you can, if you want to use that library or create a new one, it's fine, either one. You can create a new one from the flyout menu.
I think we have that Adobe.
Yeah, so we got one here that we're already synced up on, or we want to start a new one and try to sync up.
Nope, that's perfect. So now take whatever type treatment you want,
I think you have to drag.
and you can just drag it in, or you can select it
Okay,
and click
let me
the
try
plus
to
sign.
find that.
I think there's no Illustrator file, but you can just grab the PDF.
No, you can grab it right off the canvas.
This one here?
Oh, it was a PDF.
Oh, PDF.
So you have to drag it into.
You'd have to open that in Illustrator then,
Illustrator. Oh, I think you passed. Is that?
This one here. I think this might work. Is this guy here?
Yep, and just drag it right in.
Just drag that.
Right into the panel. There you go.
Bam.
Bam.
And then.
And if you guys are synced up on that already, as soon as that syncs, it'll
So
come
that was
over
on
your
my
screen.
laptop,
Oh, I
and
see
it's
it.
going to sync up on Christine's laptop here in a second.
And there
So
it
I can
comes.
continue doing tweaks on this, and she just
Pass it back.
And there it is. So now she can just drag that right in. You saw the magic of Creative Cloud libraries.
Wow.
Oh, mind blown right there in front of you.
So while she has that loaded, I can do tweaks to this. So I'm gonna just do I'm gonna make the W bigger.
Now, if you want to tweak, here's another one. If you want to tweak the one she's
Touch
already
type.
used, you want to tweak the one she's already used, or you want to make a new one?
I think he's gonna make a new one.
Okay, gonna make a new
Yeah.
one. Because I was gonna say, here's another tip. If he wanted to be able to keep tweaking the one she's using, so that it keeps updating hers, then after he puts it in the library panel, double click on it in the library panel to open it. Whatever changes you make and save will update the library
It'll
item and
probably say
therefore
fruit
update
trout
hers.
Or something, or sparkling.
Right.
If that's
Okay.
gonna say wilder.
So here on my computer, I just made the W and the R bigger just for a test. So
You
I'm
can
gonna
drag
hit
in
save.
Yep, you can drag in another copy of that, or
I can just hit save, right?
well, it depends.
Yeah. So
Okay,
it
did update
updated
that one,
here
okay.
on the Adobe library. So Christine syncs up by hitting a little cloud icon. I think it's going to boom.
Boom.
So you see on her screen,
There it is.
Super cool.
Boom.
So she can be working on something, I can be working on something, and it just constantly keeps syncing up.
Yes. Or, of course, you can always make new ones and drop in the library, and then
Right.
she can drag new ones in. So either way.
So I'm gonna do.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm just gonna change the color on this just so you can do another little test.
Yep.
I'm gonna get a funky color. I'm gonna go pink just as a,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna hit save. It's gonna update in the library. Syncing up on her computer, and there, right on her artboard, the color change.
Luke, you are the constant prankster. He said, editing objects in library is a great way to troll your coworkers.
Oh my gosh. Good.
Okay, so
So, what are we doing?
are we feeling good about that? I feel like it's a little light on something.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like the color. I don't know why.
It could be like a berry color.
Yeah.
Well, we can pull more. I can start working on detail, or I don't know if adding an image of some sort.
Why has the logo type changed to Comic Sans? Did it? I don't think so.
Nope, should have.
Are you
Did it?
joking with us?
Is this Luke? Are you doing another update? Or did
No, I think we're just doing a
Okay.
test.
Gio, I don't really have a preference because I don't do this for clients. Whenever I'm doing graphic design, it's usually for myself. So I don't really have a preference one way or the other. It just depends on what I'm working on.
Do
Explore
it.
on this.
I don't know.
Does the library run off the cloud or program? So the library is synced to the cloud, but it's always, all the assets are locally stored as well. So if you have something in the library, and even if you don't have an internet connection, you still have access to whatever's in your library. Once you have an internet connection,
some
any
detail.
changes you've
I
made
don't know
will
if it has
be
like a
synced to the cloud and
ribbon.
therefore down to all your other shared
Look at this one.
collaborators
Let's throw
or
another
other
mark on
computers or whatever.
Do you want to try using
maybe
maybe the sticks on?
I don't know if this has a lot of style here. I don't know if we want a bunch of style here. I
Oh,
saw
like
something.
in the middle.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for something here. Keyboards.
What are you looking?
Let's see if there's something in here. That might be better.
Press. You press.
And earlier someone asked, I didn't get a chance to answer it, can you work inside of a cropped object inside of Illustrator? Unfortunately not. It's not like a clipping box, so it's not like you move the thing around inside the crop. Think of it more as a traditional crop like in Photoshop. When you crop the image, that's
Like
it.
that?
You've thrown away that excess
Things in
piece.
here that'd be cool.
Now in
that
Photoshop,
and
you have
you
the option to make
put
it
it in the
destructive or
library.
non-destructive. The Illustrator
yours.
crop is destructive. It will crop away those pieces of the illustration outside of the box. So if you still need access to those elements, use a clipping mask. If you say, no, I need to crop it and I don't care about the excess, then use crop.
So we're looking for another sort of type lockup that might be better. Again, so we're not crafting it, we're just looking for something that already existed, sort of make some quick decisions.
Yep.
So there's something here. I like the simplicity of the type. It does have a certain level of style. We're going to see if it works out on this bottle. Can we put Christine's screen up? Take mine away,
Sure.
so the viewers can focus on what she's doing. Awesome. This is cool. So what if take that Smith logo down a little bit so we can get some contrast
Oh,
there?
it's down.
Yeah, just in scale. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's going to be something, or it could be
Do you like the bottom sort?
yeah. Oh,
my God.
see, you bumped
Try
it.
some more versions.
Try some more versions.
I'm trying.
Trust me, you'll thank me when we're in camp.
Okay. Dang. This is,
I'm digging that.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm digging that a lot.
Yeah, it's got a lot of character.
Needs a little some more granular details now, but I think we got some foundational things there. Some
But to
type
me,
lockups.
does that conflict with the Smith now?
It does a little bit. So yeah, I mean that's a great point. So,
There's another bug.
so in lieu of Smith, it's going to be the brand mark. So it's going to be Wilder, and then in lieu of Copper Kettle, it's going to be something that says Shrub Soda.
Okay.
And then we can put some other type and information in there, and based on some of these other boards, there's some brand voice that we had. It could be like,
Sate your sip.
what is it?
Sate your sip, which means like, I think.
Sate your swig, sate your slurp, quench your thirst. Yeah, I think something sate your swig. Is that slang for?
Like drink.
What is it? Sate your
We
swig?
found it during our research. This popped up. Like, is this how they spoke back in the 17th century
Like
or the
that's a
18th
term
century?
I've never heard
Right.
in my life.
But that's what's cool about it. It can be brand voice. That's very distinctive and ownable for the brand.
Becomes a new thing
Yeah.
all over again.
Yeah. So in lieu of sort of brewing company, maybe we put something sate your swig.
Yeah.
All right, so Joseph is asking me a good question. I didn't ask you guys this yesterday, but I'll answer it in my opinion, and you guys can tell me as well. Terry, is Illustrator better than InDesign for this type of comping? Absolutely, because they're using elements that they've drawn or will be drawing or quickly putting together. So from a drawing perspective, they're in the right program doing it. If it was just a matter of taking the artifacts or assets and laying them out and moving them around and cropping them and all of that, then InDesign may work better, because with the frame tool in InDesign, it's a lot easier than having to always create clipping masks. So it just really depends on what the end result or what the process is. So if you're going to be drawing, yes, Illustrator. If you're not going to be drawing, then InDesign is probably easier.
Really small. I mean, Smith is such a short word, but.
What if there was some sort of monogram up here, and then in here it says Wilder Shrub Soda. So it's some sort of monogram.
Yeah,
So it might be a.
So did you kind of have something like?
I
Do you
think
have an
there's.
artifact or something?
I think under the logo folder you have maybe. So we're talking about maybe in instead of spelling out Wilder, the logo for the company up at the top in this diamond shape, maybe it's a monogram like a W or W Co or something like
WS Co.
Yeah,
or-
and then in lieu of Copper Kettle, that could be sort of Shrub Soda, and we can put Wilder here where it reads since 2011, or it can sort of move somewhere in that direction. So I saw some. We had a monogram somewhere in the.
So that asked you guys, or I was going to ask you guys the question: does InDesign ever come into your workflow?
For like a project like
Period.
this, mainly just probably the presentation or
When there's a lot of
type.
text,
If it's text
yeah.
heavy, it's
Page
InDesign.
layout.
Text heavy, page layout, what InDesign is really strong at. Okay.
Right.
That's fantastic, yeah. With these sort of designs we're doing here, we don't
Yeah.
typically use it. Yeah.
Probably not.
Oftentimes when we do set up a presentation for a client, we'll compile everything we're doing in either Photoshop or Illustrator into Adobe InDesign to sort of create a page layout for a presentation. Yeah, so we utilize all the sort of Creative Cloud or Creative Suite applications. Yeah, so
Angel,
Yeah, throw that
you're
in
asking,
there.
what is our purpose in the universe? To be nice to each other and to watch our live streams. That's it. That's it.
I'm going to.
Yeah, so here's a compare and contrast. So we were trying to decide if the mark should be more of a monogram at the top or if it's spelled out. So this is where we're going to compare and contrast. We're going to make a choice here. I'm digging this.
Cool.
Yeah, boom.
There we go.
Boom. So you can look at both of those and make some assessments. I think the one on the right is really type heavy, a lot of words. I like the monogram because it feels more like a mark or a bug, as we like to call it.
Yeah.
So this feels like it needs a bug there to contrast what is going to eventually be some type here. It feels like we needs some granular detail to this, some textures, or so we can bring some across here. I think we're gonna move forward with this bad boy. Feels like we need some maybe texture or detail in this area.
Yeah,
maybe
for
it's
sure.
a unique thing with the label here with the little.
I think bringing in those that more tertiary type, kind of resembling the Homestead Act, stuff like that.
Okay, so
Oh, sorry.
let's do this. I'm going to create the monogram to go up on that, on the top there. And do you want to go back down to this
I
one
can
here?
start refining.
And then you want to sort of key this in
Sure.
where Copper Kettle and start building that out. So
Yeah.
that's what we're going to work with, guys. Hope you guys are comfortable with that. And then we'll start going into some more of the granular details on it. So again, we're going to divide and conquer. And this is what we do in the office. I'll task different designers certain things. Like if there's someone, we have an illustrator in the office who's really talented. If we have a little nugget that needs to be illustrated, I'll say, Carol, can you just illustrate that for us? And she goes off and she does it, and then she provides it. And this is where the Adobe library would be great.
Yeah.
So she can say,
It just pops it
when
in.
she's done, she's
Right.
like, Christine, I have it. And then she'll just update it, sync it up with her design.
Yep.
Sometimes if someone's really, really confident in type, or at least this style, then we'll say, hey, can you craft something? Let's get some iterations on how that type might look. Yeah, so it's definitely very collaborative. It's very seldom that someone just works with their head down and just does the whole thing by themselves.
And that's awesome the way you guys are doing this. And again, a great use case for libraries.
Yeah, for sure.
It was interesting because yesterday we shared a case study with one of our clients, Bivouac Cider Works in San Diego, and the concept that the client chose towards the end of the meeting. I'll pull it up here.
Now, you know what? Before you do that, go back to your Wilder where you made the magenta color change. This where you made that. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have that, Doc?
It was up there.
No, you, because you made that, right?
Yeah.
Or who made the color change?
I did.
You did.
Aaron did.
Okay.
Yeah, I was intentionally being wacky just to see.
No, it's fine. But I want to see something here. Do you have that color?
Let me go to.
Like that.
Is it here?
No, it must not be because it's. Or double click on the one in the library.
Talking to me?
Yeah. Double click on the one in the library. That'll open it for you.
It's this guy here.
What happened to the color?
Yeah, great question. Don't know.
Oh, you know what? It's probably because I have highlights and shadows on it, so it's kind of changing the.
No. His,
There,
his
okay.
was
So
in
I
black.
changed the color.
Okay.
All
I
right,
changed it
so-
to a blue.
So now select it and click the plus sign in the bottom left of the library panel. Hang on, let me.
Yep, I see that.
Let me hit the split here so that everybody can see it.
So here's the
Yep, hit
the
the
library
plus
here
sign.
on the right. Here's my artboard here on the left. So click on this little plus thing
Yep.
in the corner. Yep.
Now see where you can add the graphic and what's that below the graphic?
It's cancel or add. Is that where you're at?
Is that the graphic?
Oh, it's fill color.
Fill color. That's what I
Yeah,
want. Okay,
yeah.
so click that.
It clicked off. Or you want to actually
I want it,
click
yeah,
on the color itself.
Yep, I want the color. I can't see your screen, so that's why it's
Yeah,
hard for
I'm
me to
sorry.
direct
So
you.
there's a little icon there, but it doesn't allow me to change anything. It just
That's okay.
it gives me the information. The hexadecimal
And what does it say
number.
to the left of it?
Fill color. And it has a
that's
box I
good.
can click on.
Can you click on the word fill color?
Yep, I just clicked off.
And that just turns it off. Okay, so, and then, oh, I see it down at the bottom where it says, what is that, save?
Add.
That's it. See, now, you've got that swatch, so
Oh.
it's not just, that's what I was trying to
You
get
can do
to.
colors.
Oh, because I
It's
clicked that.
colors, it's type styles, it's the graphics, it's all kinds of things. It's
I
not
see
just
now.
the images. So if she needed to use that color for
Oh my
things,
goodness.
she would have that color now to apply to other things.
Such a noob.
Oh, so I can add colors. Wow, that's great. Can add
Think
another
about
color.
it. Do you think anything of it?
I don't see the fun in it.
I didn't think you would.
Of course you didn't.
Back to Christine.
Okay. So,
Okay, so we're gonna narrow focus. We're gonna go with this concept here.
Oh, yeah. You want to see it? Sorry. Right there. This is the. There.
Yeah, so I think what we should do is, Christine, if you want to
Yeah,
work
pattern
on the
or
copy in the middle?
Luke, patterns can be added. I think it depends on the program. I know they can in Photoshop. Not sure about Illustrator.
For patterns?
Yeah, patterns can be added to the library as well.
Oh, yeah. Anything can be added to the library.
Just about.
Okay.
Now, curious, Aaron, highlight the type with the text tool. Just like highlight one of the words or whatever.
Yep.
All right, now click the plus sign on the library. I just want to see what pops up.
Yep. Character, paragraph style, text, fill color.
Okay, uncheck color.
Yep.
And now add. So now you got those styles as well.
Oh, wow.
So see in your library, Christine, you have
Yeah, I got
character
that.
styles now.
Oh, nice. Wow.
So you can have multiple creatives on one project, everyone's syncing up and combining efforts.
Correct.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to do the monogram. So I'm going to create a graphic. Let me get that started.
Okay, so what I did here is since all the boards were clumped, especially if you're near a laptop, you don't want to, it's easier when you don't have to scroll so far back up. You can start a new document, or you can just pull your artboards closer together so they're in closer vicinity. Sparkling. Should say
What?
sparkling fruit shrub or shrubs.
Good point. Joseph is reminding everyone to save.
Thank you.
Yeah, how many times have we forgot
Hours
to
gone
save?
by.
There's a-
It's happened. I
Not
think
saved,
it happens
yeah.
to everyone.
Oh yeah,
It sucks.
happened to me once on a live stream. I was almost done with the project. Crash! No, no.
Worst.
Usually the recovery is pretty good though.
Yeah. Where did I put?
I like where that's going. So someone's asking a question about, platform choices, Mac, Windows, getting a new laptop, whatever. Do you have any Windows users in your design shop?
We're pretty much all Mac.
All Mac?
Yeah.
Okay. There's
Even
your
our
answer.
bookkeeper uses Mac.
All right. Even the bookkeeper.
Yeah.
There's your answer. You can use whatever you want, but most designers I know are using Macs. But our applications run great on both.
Oh, no, what are you doing?
Hmm?
No, my skin mouse is super
I
sensitive.
found most of our video producers actually on Windows too.
I think a lot of web,
Yeah,
coders use.
coders are using Windows, yeah. So it just really depends on what you like or what you were trained on or what you prefer, what you want to spend your money on. But we tend to be pretty platform agnostic.
So I'm starting a monogram for the top of your bottle, Christine. You want to just drop it on there so as I
Yeah.
start
Yeah, he's already
tweaking it,
it's
I
already
can
in the
start to
library.
see if it's starting to work. So
Oh, cool.
the WS, yeah.
I haven't saved it.
Oh,
Let me
sorry.
hit save.
No, you can
Okay.
still do it.
Yeah, you're fine.
All
So
right.
swap out whatever's there now and just throw what you need to sync up. It's not synced up yet.
Oh,
Hit the little. There, it's syncing up now. So it should change. And then we're using
Little
red.
magical squares of changing.
So I want that
Little
color.
rotation
Can you put that
animation.
color?
So select that object and add, click the plus button.
And then that way I
And
have
then
that.
just add not the graphic, just the build color.
oh, sorry.
So try it one more time. Oh, I got both.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, it's got both.
Cool. So I'll expect to get that color up on my screen, so we're both working out the same color
I
palette.
think
There
I've
it is.
hooked Aaron on libraries.
There we
I
go.
know.
I've done
I'm gonna
it.
use
My
all
job
the
here is
time
done.
Okay, so now we're
Okay.
synced up on colors, and you we'll have that graphic. Throw that on your label, and I'm going to start tweaking it.
Yeah. Okay, how come it's doing it?
You have to just throw that over there.
Oh, you haven't saved it yet.
Yeah, just go ahead and put it up there.
And
Yeah,
it's
just
like,
put it up
wait,
there.
it's not doing
It'll
it.
sync up.
Okay, cool.
So I believe, yeah. There it goes. You see the color just updated on yours because
Nice.
it officially synced up. Okay, so that's just a start. I already started tweaking it. I'm going to start working on that monogram while Christine's working on the sort of the belly of the label.
Very cool.
Get really quiet when we focus on our design.
I noticed
Is
that,
it-
so I'm looking for questions. Keep you guys keep you
Anyone
guys
have any
talking.
questions?
Yeah, ask some questions. Might be able to.
They're still on the Mac versus Windows back and forth, which that will last probably another 15,
Oh my
20
gosh.
minutes. Use whatever you like.
I think it's missing.
It's not about what others are using, it's what you like. All right, I'll ask a question. So when you're working on something like this, and I know you're doing it collaboratively today
Yeah.
because we're on a stream, are you guys typically collaborating at the same time like you are now today? Or you might be working on it this morning, but he might work on it this afternoon?
Oh, on the same thing. It
On
would
the same
be,
thing.
yeah, we do collaborate. If there's one, let's say there's one concept, that other designer would do like a save as, and they'd work on it, and we see what we can pull from each other's.
But is that happening simultaneously or like different times of the day? Like you might
it'll-
work on it this morning, she or he might
Usually
work on it
it's
this
at the-
afternoon.
I mean, usually it's at the same time.
At the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the way we schedule things too, so that depends. But usually we'll try to do it at the same time.
Yeah, normally it's a scheduling question. We normally we're juggling probably half a dozen projects at a time on a daily basis, and sometimes if it's predicated on timing, I'll push someone off a project that they're working on that may not be as time sensitive, and I'll say, okay, we need to hop on this together.
Right.
You guys
All
collaborate.
hands on deck on
Yep.
this one.
Yeah,
And
so-
get this one done.
Yeah, so I sort of act as sort of like the orchestrating, like in managing time. That's part of like my job as a creative director, make sure everyone is staying focused on their task and that we're meeting our deadlines. Christine's task is make sure that the creative stays on point.
Got it.
And so everyone has roles, but yeah, it's definitely a very collaborative effort.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we try to sync it up the best we can, just so everyone is on the same page. Normally it's the most fluid.
Got about 18 minutes, I believe.
So you can start to see like the process is slowed down a bit because now we sort of narrowed that concept and now we're getting to the details of it. So we're intentionally really fast, very deliberate on a lot of the decisions we made early on to sort of get to this place. So we picked a concept in, less than a couple hours. Where I used to design, it might take me a day or two to even get to this point.
To get to this point,
To get to
it
this
takes me
point.
about a couple of years.
Yeah, so we'll probably end up having to continue working on this a little bit tonight. So come tomorrow, we'll have a lot of these artifacts sort of dialed in and in place. And then tomorrow we're going to take this design and we're going to flesh it out into a bigger system beyond just this packaging. So maybe like a carry case, 4-pack carry case, maybe.
Very nice. Yeah, I saw those from the other one.
Yeah,
that
maybe
was nice.
maybe we do some sort of marketing sort of vehicle with the brand on it, and we'll start to demonstrate how we're not logo slapping this on everything, how we're sort of using the colors and the
So tomorrow, will we get to see at what point you'd be ready to show something to the client?
Oh, for
Or-
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as predicted, they're still talking Mac versus Windows.
I'm gonna end this conversation.
Yeah,
It's Mac all the way.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know why
don't do
I don't know why
that.
we're
Don't do
talking-
that. Don't do that. That's just gonna. You just threw gasoline on it. Now it's just like
Those
a
are fighting
roaring
words.
fire, right? Yeah, a friend of mine and I joke, if you ever want to just get a blog post with a bunch of comments, just say, one platform sucks, or any two brands. Oh, I think Harley Davidson's best. Oh, I love Bose. Apple rocks. Say any title like
Right.
that, and you just have like a gajillion comments. The brands people love and hate, or love to hate.
Let me see. Interesting.
So we're Shrub.
Sparkling shrub. That's
Shrub.
what I meant.
Yeah. We want to put the emphasis more on shrub in this case.
Could be. And just like.
Should shrub be? I don't see. What does that look like? If you
Yeah, I'll
threw
see
that
what
on
I
there? Is it too small?
Good.
It might be.
Luke, I'm glad you guys moved on to prototyping. I agree, Carolyn. It is the software that really matters.
That's a great question. That's a great answer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just say that as an employee. I say that as a user.
Yeah,
I
I'm
feel like
concerned
shrub
about
has to
the.
be kind of big.
Yeah, it's
You know what?
some
for
hierarchy.
That type makes me think college.
Oh, is it like
collegiate,
collegiate?
Yeah.
You can choose other ones.
No, I was just saying. I don't know. If they're trying to go after that demographic, then you've nailed it.
But let's see. There's
I guess because I'm from Michigan, it looks like almost like it's about to say Spartans. So
yeah.
it's because it's in their typeface.
You went to Michigan?
No, I didn't. I mean,
Oh.
I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
I didn't go there. I went to a business school.
You studied business and you ended up in a creative.
I know, crazy,
Wow.
right? I actually studied accounting.
Wow.
Never practice it.
Okay, so what was?
Should we make shrub like really big and maybe sparkling goes above it?
It could be stacked.
Yeah, let's see a version of shrub being really big in the center.
Saving PDFs from Illustrator sometimes requires fonts and placed photos graphics to be included. How can this be avoided other than embedding and outlining fonts? I don't know that you can, because you want people to be able to see it the way it really looks. So that's why it's requiring the embedding is so that everything will look exactly the way it looked in Illustrator. J.R. Ingram, so am I. I'm from Detroit as well.
So we were getting a lot of great questions yesterday from, I think, a lot of young designers.
Yeah.
Like how to get a job, what's important. I'm curious if you guys have any questions on that, especially a lot of the young creatives out there transitioning. If they have any questions on like what happens after they graduate or what are the next steps. I get those all the time.
Graphic design employment or school type, meaning after school type questions. The floor is open. How do I get a job as a designer?
How do you get a job as a designer?
Yeah,
What do you do now?
I'm an evangelist working for the company that makes the software. Does that help?
How do you get a job as a designer? Well, you first better have passion in it.
Okay.
So if you have passion in it, then I think that's where it starts.
I can muster that up.
Yeah, because it's not just a job. I mean, it should be. Portfolio start. You need a body of work. You need to demonstrate.
Oh, crap. I knew there was a problem.
What? You don't have one of those?
I don't have one of those.
Contact me when you have one of those.
Oh, okay. Back to the drawing board for me. But anyone else, okay, have a body of work. Now, could that work be all made up? Like, does it have to be
absolutely.
a paying client? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Could it be work from school?
If it's good.
Yeah.
You know, I think I've done a lot of portfolio reviews, and I think one of the what a lot of students do is if there was something that they did for a client, they put in their portfolio because they think it has a certain cachet.
Right.
I say that's fine if it's good.
Yeah.
But if it's not good, I don't care who you designed it for.
Yeah.
I just want to see your best work possible.
Got it.
So, and including if it's a hypothetical project, it's all about it. You need to demonstrate your ability to design and what your skill sets are, and I don't care what
So
that
it does
platform
not
is.
have to be actual work you did for a client. It's just about you doing the work.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So there's a lot of things even in Farm Design's portfolio that we just did hypothetically, and that begets a lot of projects from other clients.
And Ryan's asking, would you recommend going in-house or to I think it said design agency. Let me go back up. Would you recommend going in-house or going to an agency/studio?
I think it depends on the individual. I think there's different dynamics with working in a small studio, working for yourself, or working for an agency. I think just the structure of each one of those businesses, some play better to your personality type or your skill sets. So I think if you're highly creative, normally like design studios, I think normally work out pretty well because you have a wide array of projects that you can work on. I think agencies, there's a lot of collaboration, but there's a lot of parameters as well. If you like more structure, I think agencies are probably good for you. I think it's all different for every person. Well, that's looking good, Christine.
All right, Chad's asking, what if you're older and want to transition from education back into creative? And I'm Chad. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, are you the one
No,
reading?
it's not me. Chad did ask that question.
I don't think age should have anything to do with
I
it.
didn't think so either. Yeah, if you're good, you're good.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, if you're just trying to make a decision, if you're going to make a career change, I don't think age should be a limitation on anything you do.
I totally agree 100%.
How's it looking, guys? How's it looking, art director?
It feels too advertising.
You know, there's no pleasing that guy.
That's looking great.
Christine
Make
is
that a
quietly
little
killing it
smaller,
over
make
here.
this
I
a little
know.
Smaller, and
Yeah.
maybe add a little indent here.
Bring in that triangular.
So we're trying to add as many little details because we start to build out the sort of brand styling from this. So we're constantly trying to figure out other facets that we can add to this.
That's cool.
You know, even like little details
Ooh, if you
in
move
a
it up a
banner.
little bit, it'll even look like an arrow. No, center it right on that
center?
that gray one. See that gray one right to the right of
Oh,
it?
sorry.
Yep.
So the more robust you
Up.
can build this toolbox of elements, fonts, colors,
There you go.
textures.
Up a little bit. One more.
I think if I bring this up.
Oh, there you go. That's it. I see that.
Because
Nice,
as we start to
Terry.
I see
extend,
what you did there.
it's cool.
Yeah.
As we start to extend the brand beyond just the
yeah.
packaging,
See, I have an eye.
You do have an eye.
I have an eye for when I
we'll give
see
Terry
it.
credit
It's
for that one.
getting there
That's
is the problem for
Terry's
me.
idea, right there.
Look at that.
It's
there
kinda
we go.
cool.
So little details, and these details we can use on a website or the box that we're going to explore tomorrow. We want to build out like a vocabulary of elements, visual elements that we can draw from. the less amount of elements we have, the simpler that vocabulary is going to be. And so we want to have something that is more robust. So we're always looking for all those different layers. High level, sort of the granular details, textures, fonts, colors, you name all those elements. Those are all imperative to sort of build out a strong brand voice. I'm liking this a lot.
Yeah, this is fun.
I added like 0.01%.
Hey man, that's the collaborative part of it.
So I think there's a lot of details we can add to this, textures and patterns. But again, I think we're focusing on the big picture moves first.
So I see a kind of a series of questions about CMYK, RGB, color shifting. Seems to shift more in one program, not the other, which I find that hard to believe, but anything's possible. You work in RGB, you work in CMYK, you don't,
Yeah, we normally work in the color mode that we know the final output's going to be. And oftentimes if it's print, CMYK.
Yeah.
In this case, there's probably going to be a lot of spot colors. It'd probably be, PMS colors here. We might use a metallic silver on this. We have the accent color. That would be another color. So right now we're at 3 colors. So it depends.
Okay.
If we're doing a website, it's
the
RGB.
reason for that, I'm going to guess, is that you don't want a surprise at the end.
Yeah.
You don't want to spec all this color out and then switch to CMYK and it's like, oh, that doesn't look anything like I designed it. Because the colors will be muted. The color spectrum in CMYK just isn't as large as RGB.
Yeah. It's good. I'm curious, like where we have the silver. Can we add a little texture? I'm going to see if I can find something that we can add in there to add some granular detail. We're sort of getting into that level.
Sure.
I'll see if I find something for you.
I wonder if we bring, I think any of these are still.
Yeah, what if it's the one of these sort of homestead deeds?
Yeah.
And then just throw in there sort of just a granular pattern in that gray area and maybe screen it back. All right, so we're kind of getting closer and closer to the more granular details. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
So
Just screen it back, so we get
JR
color
says the fruit. Okay, so wait. David says the label's really looking strong. JR says the fruit flavor label competes with the other headline.
This guy?
the scale, maybe.
I don't
it could be the
necessarily
scale.
agree. It could be the size. Yeah.
Yeah, we can always.
Let's give it, what flavor are we going to call this first one? Let's get a flavor in there. You have a placeholder.
Yeah, what do you want to call it? NEA? Does anyone want to? I mean, they used shrubs to preserve berries, so maybe it's a berry.
Since we're dealing with red.
Maybe it's like a wild mulberry or something.
Love it.
And we got
Oh, we can't say wild because we got
yeah,
wilder
that's
than
true.
so.
Mulberry.
we got 4 minutes left, guys.
Alright.
Are they still doing the Mac versus?
No. Don't say it. They moved on. Don't
All right,
say
all
it.
right.
Don't say it.
Jeez.
Maybe we can add some.
No, they're back
Yeah.
to design.
This is cool. You had it
yeah.
across the. Does it just sort of bleed in on one sort of side, make it asymmetric, or does it just go into certain areas?
That's cool.
Yeah. I like how it's dynamic, so not so.
What if it also bleeds
Yep.
into the gray?
Actually, I don't know if I like that, but let's see.
You like it better all in
I like
white?
it better all in white.
I'm also starting to think that silver is that have the flavor appeal. Wonder
Yeah,
if that could be
definitely
more
different.
color. What if
Yeah.
that's like a shade of the red, so it
Yeah.
gives consumer expectations on what that beverage flavor might be. So maybe go a light tonal red. I think when we're doing the packaging, a lot of things we focus on are blocking of elements.
Maybe we should copy and
What we want to try to do is have a very clear, succinct message when a consumer sees this on shelf. And so if all the type just bleeds together, they really have to try to weed through it visually to try to understand what that product is. It's like a billboard. You only have maybe 3 seconds to capture their attention. Otherwise, they're moved on to the next product. So thinking about blocking of type is really important in your ability to communicate in a quick, succinct manner. So you can see how Christine has a lot of hierarchy in type to sort of have a 1, 2, 3 read. So right here, I clearly see sparkling shrub first. Then there's a reduction in type size to sort of have a secondary read. Also, sort of how they're positioned, where they're through space.
Ooh, she's using math to do it. Oh no. Yeah. All right, guys, we're just about done. Any parting words for part 2? Any parting words for part 2, segment 2? We'll be back tomorrow, but
Yeah.
Yeah, hope you guys learned a lot.
you guys
today.
learned a lot today. I did. This is just, it's awesome to watch both working, but Christine's a beast. She's just like, just, you know.
Yeah, she was definitely in beast mode today.
Like, you know, hands were just a blur on the keyboard. It was just like all just things flying out everywhere, just all going into the page. It was amazing.
Yeah, so I think today we got a really nice concept here that we're going to flesh out a little bit tonight. And then come tomorrow, so segment 3, we're going to take this concept and we're going to sort of blow it out, fully bake it onto other touch points. And kind of see what it might look like, what we present to a potential client.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
it. We're out. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Stay
everyone.
tuned for
Bye.
more.
See ya.
Bye.